Hello, fellow film freaks. This is the Skeleton Crew. I'm Alex Rubenstahl, a graduate student from Yale University, and we're here to talk to you about a movie we all really liked. But before we get started, let's introduce the rest of the Skeleton Crew in descending order of importance.
My name is Amelia Zilo. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
I'm James Napoli. I am a postdoctoral research scholar at North Carolina State University and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences.
My name is Scott Johnston. I am the vertebrate paleontology, fossil preparator, and technician at the Harvard University Museum of Comparative Zoology.
I'm Dalton Meyer. I'm a PhD student at Yale University. And together, we're the Skeleton Crew.
We're the Skeleton Crew!
We're the Skeleton Crew, and we all absolutely loved 65.
At the silver screen.
Did we?
The cinema.
So Dalton and myself, I think we were the first.
We were.
Thursday night.
We rope dropped it. We
to go see the new Adam Driver film, 65, about Adam Driver and some dinosaurs. And there's a little girl and there's a big rock. And some time shit. Not really. They're just in the past. After us, the rest of our crew went. I don't remember the order. It's not important.
It was me next, I think. I also saw it Thursday night, just slightly after you.
Okay, Amelia was last. That's what's important. And we all were incredibly unimpressed. I mean, it's a bit of mud on my face because I've been I didn't really ever expect it to be good, but I have been annoying about it on Twitter because I think people being negative is annoying. So I'm like, maybe it'll be good. You don't know. It wasn't good.
No, it was not. I saw it right after landing in San Diego. Just airport to hotel, drop off bags, off to the movie. Oh my God. We didn't get dinner until really late that night so that we could see 65, and we were so hungry. And it's just not very good. It's only 93 minutes or something.
It's quick.
It feels like 2.5 hours.
Oh, it didn't feel that long for me.
No, it didn't.
No, this is an appropriate amount of time for what it is.
Yeah, you might have been.
I'm happy it was short.
You might have been affected.
I think I perceived time to be longer.
You just came off a plane.
And we're hungry.
I didn't feel its length.
No, in fact, I remember I was sitting next to Alex and I whispered it to him because this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. Are we comfortable with that?
This
spoilers
is
ahead
review.
if you really care about the spoilers for 65. Come back.
If you've seen the trailer of the movie, you've seen the whole movie already also. So
pretty much. But yeah, we get to the point where they're at the ship and they're preparing the launch sequence to escape Earth. They're on the little escape pod. And I was like, I know more stuff has to happen, but I looked at my phone and I'm like, it's been 80 minutes and this movie's 90 minutes. And I don't know exactly when it started given the trailers, but I whispered to Alice, I was like, there are 2 scenes from the trailer that have yet to happen. How is there enough movie left for these 2 scenes to happen? And that's where the T-Rex is slamming into something.
Spoiler,
and
there
then,
aren't.
And then there's the scene where they're in the geyser field with the quadruped thing, and that looks like it's in the daytime. And I was like, they're still in the night. Now, what we didn't realize is that was just sunrise, and it was exactly the end of the night. So it all made sense, and those 2 scenes happened in very short order. But I was concerned for the movie.
I remember the moment where he's in the geyser field for the first time, and he sees the beacon on the mountain, and he realizes that the entire plot of the movie is he needs to walk about 6.5 to 7 miles. And I remember thinking something is going to happen when he gets there, and that's going to cause the second or third act of the film to commence. And then he gets there, and they do a thing, and then the movie's over. And I just really enjoyed realizing that the whole movie was really going to be, I need to walk 15 kilometers.
Which is something no one in this group has ever done. So it is a bit of a hard for us to imagine.
What does it take? 2.5, 3 hours?
Let alone,
if you're over terrain longer.
Alex, that's about how, I think that's the length of the hike we went on in Glacier, right?
No, the Glacier hike was 12. It was 6 one way, 6
the other.
It was a long hike. Yeah, it took a whole day. Yeah.
I mean, several of us have walked
we
that
were
much.
At risk from bears.
Several of us have walked that much in the Hell Creek. We've done that much in the place. We did the thing.
Did you get to the escape pod?
If by escape pod you mean the Ford Bronco that took us out that had beer in it, then yes.
That's
But
what I always call them.
before we get too deep into this movie, I want to articulate the mind space that I was in. Sitting down, sitting in my comfy seat, reclining. You know, we get there. I have a bunch of popcorn, which I shouldn't eat because it rips my insides up, but I love it. I had a Sprite, which Dalton, when I bought it, it was in a clear bottle, and Dalton asked, "Has Sprite always been clear?" Which was a good moment.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Wait. Pin in that for a second.
Hey.
Dalton, what color do you think Sprite
I
is?
thought it was like yellowish. I thought it had a tinge. I didn't think it was like brown.
Because the bottles are usually green.
I
Yeah,
thought it was green.
Okay.
the bottles are green, so I thought it had a color to it.
Like
And I've
Mountain
never
Dew
seen it
color.
like.
He's
Yeah,
never had it in a can. Maybe it doesn't. So we
I've
sit
never
down,
poured it into a glass.
and I am whipped backwards in time, like not really in 65 because they don't travel backwards in time, but
They should.
I'm sitting there. There are trailers that feel like they were for movies that would have been popular
Oh God,
25 years ago, like
that
Talking
fucking bone.
Dog movie with Will
There was a
Ferrell.
talking dog.
There was a
trailer?
talking dog movie with Will
That wasn't in
Ferrell.
this film, Alex. That was when we saw.
Am I lumping it?
Yeah, that's when we saw. What was the last movie we saw in theaters together?
Okay, but that was fresh in my mind. There's a movie about mentally disabled people playing basketball.
Also a different movie.
Really?
Yes.
This is all the commercials I had were like R-rated horror movies, which
I
made
guess
me,
you know what it was.
yeah.
I think what pulled it all. What
It's the
pulled
Jennifer
things
Lawrence.
back into my mind was the Jennifer Lawrence trailer, which is the movie where a hot Jennifer Lawrence is trying to fuck a 19-year-old because Michael J. Fox is like, my son's a weird virgin.
That wasn't Michael J. Fox. That was Matthew Broderick, who looks really old.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
No hard feelings is that one.
no hard feelings, right?
No hard
Anyway,
feelings.
I'm in the
But,
mindset.
I've really always wanted to see a boner comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence, and also, you know, the phrase "I really want to see a boner comedy" has also just never been said.
It's coming back, folks.
I'll be honest. I
Sorry.
might see that.
I
I
probably
wouldn't
will.
be surprised. Both of you shameful.
Anyway,
So what
And
we
know us.
we got a
So-
trailer. No. Pursuant to your point, we got a trailer for The Pope's Exorcist. Did you see
Oh,
that?
yes.
yeah.
That looks so dumb. Oh,
Yeah,
I want
You
to.
know,
I want to know
That-
what Russell Crowe is doing now.
Russell
fake
Crowe's
Italian
in
accent.
that?
he's
Yeah.
poor.
That's
is what
he's
doing
the
now.
Pope's Exorcist.
It's
He's
the same
doing
thing I
a, like
imagine
Mario
Jennifer
and
Lawrence is
Luigi
doing.
to your Italian accent. It looks like a movie from a long time ago.
I was just waiting the whole trailer for like the based on a true story to drop, and I'm like, wow, this is so shameful that they're not even gonna like, we're not even gonna
No,
pretend.
there was one of those. It was based on the
That's the
files
beginning.
from the Vatican archives.
Wait, really?
Uh-huh.
It was at the very beginning of the
I
trailer.
must have dissociated.
I
Anyway.
got the most notable one for me was the new Evil Dead movie.
Oh yeah.
That looks
Which-
cool.
That looks dope. I mean, I'm a sucker for an Evil Dead movie. Even the new remake, I thought it was really
Yeah, fun.
great.
You know what a sign of a really good movie is? When the review of it is a list of the trailers you saw before the movie started.
Indeed.
Right. Anyway,
There were also people talking so loudly behind us throughout all the trailer, and they saw the Jennifer Lawrence trailer and they got so excited for that movie. They were like, "Oh, that looks great!" And I was like,
they were 19 and she's very hot.
"The caliber of film goers in this theater is unfortunate."
The movie is basically like, what if Jennifer Lawrence was paid to have sex with one of us? I'm not sure they liked it.
You know what? That's a good point.
But anyway, so the trailers, and then we watched the whole movie, and my review, which I put very briefly on Twitter, which is like, this is like a movie that's so mediocre. Like it's a kind of movie that doesn't exist anymore. Where like nothing happens. It's its own fucking original thing. It's probably some kind of tax scheme. I saw somewhere where it's like through like tax refunds or something that it costs less to make, like half of the expected cost, something along those lines.
Hmm.
And
It
it's
came
just
in
like
way under budget.
Probably
Like,
because
way under budget.
Probably because they had the idea for a 2-hour movie and then cut a fucking third of it.
they got a big actor, and they're like, what if it was a big actor in X science fiction scenario? And it wasn't bad. Like Adam Driver gave a decent performance. The little girl was fine. I thought she was annoying, but fine. and then like the dinosaurs did the things dinosaurs are supposed to do, but it's just like
It's shot competently. Like there's a lot of good vistas, which I'm a sucker for.
yeah.
And
It's
the
like if
effects are
someone-
decent. Like the creature design sucks, but the effects are pretty well realized.
I have a hypothesis. Some movie studio, whoever produced this, the guy that shoots the arrows through the little axes, I think it's Ridley Scott affiliated, or he does stuff with them sometimes. They
were on The Last Duel. I remember that's where I saw their logo before.
That's Ridley.
Yeah. No. But I think Ridley directed a movie that was partially paid for by that company. I don't think he's involved with that company. Do not besmirch the name of Ridley Scott more than he's already done with his Aliens.
With his own movies.
Yeah. He's not responsible for this one.
Bring Ridley Scott, if you watch our videos, Dalton and I are huge fans of
Oh my
Raised by
god.
Wolves, and we desperately need it back.
Write a novel or something, finish it. I have to know what happens.
I gotta know.
I am sure Ridley Scott, acclaimed Hollywood filmmaker, loves the Skeleton Crew.
I don't know, man. Anyway,
listen, he's one of our 2,000 something subs, right? Yeah.
My hypothesis is, I'm going to say it, and then if I see it on the internet, you've done scientific misconduct, viewers, without citing me, of course. Somehow, this film studio bought the media rights to the Hell Creek as an idea about 20 years ago, and they're like, "Oh, we need to be able to maintain our rights to this as intellectual property." And so they did what they did with like the fucking Fantastic Four when they made that entire Fantastic Four movie and never released it because they just wanted to have the rights. But they're like, "Oh, we can make maybe we can make money," and they released this movie so they can maybe like 10 years later make a different Hell Creek movie. There.
I don't think that's what happened.
What do you mean? It's so reasonable.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense when you put it that way. I just think that this movie was, so it's like written and directed by the same people, right? Wasn't it like written and directed by the same pair?
Same people. The same team, two guys.
Right. It seems to me like they, at some point, I don't think they ever really decided what this movie was. Because there's elements of the movie that suggest to me that they were trying for something a little bit more high effort. And I think it well, or maybe both high effort and there's just inconsistencies with the storyline that to me suggest that it originally was a very different story. I think part of it was that the idea was kind of do The Revenant, but with dinosaurs.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Which would be great, especially if we have Leonardo DiCaprio get completely ravaged by like just a really, really realistically depicted pack of dromaeosaurs.
Oh yeah, right. That great actor Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh no, I just want to watch him get hurt. No, but like I can see some DNA in the movie of something that was trying to be a more like, you know, a Revenant type story of man who has lost everything trying to like reclaim motivation to live and go on. Especially in the like really bizarrely out of place, almost suicide scene that happens like 8 minutes into the film.
Well, there's this right, and originally I was like, wait, why are you doing that? And then they establish with a surprisingly sad, like very quick series of like little video messages from his daughter, kind of like Interstellar.
Yeah, it was Interstellar.
Yeah, and I remember feeling like I'm like, this is sad. I feel an emotion.
Right. And so that's kind of what I wonder if like the original plot idea was that he was like some sort of starship captain person and like he had this personal tragedy and then was confronted with this survival situation. And it's about him like regaining the will to live or something like that. Like not the Revenant revenge plot.
No.
Something along those lines.
I've got it. I know what it is. It's The Gray with Liam Neeson, but with dinosaurs.
I've always said that that's the movie that should exist.
Yes, but like it's the same thing where it has like he's lost everything. It has the suicide bit. It has the crash of a air vehicle in a wilderness, and he has to fight to survive. And
I think that you two might be onto something with that's like the original aim of this movie. And I think two things happen. Here's my pitch for what happened after an idea of like Revenant with dinosaurs, The Gray with dinosaurs. Two things happen. One in production, Mandalorian comes out, Last of Us is in pre-production.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, every movie needs a dad and a kid. So we got to bring a kid into this. This can't be a solo mission. It's got to be a dad. We're in the age of dads. Second thing is that these two are the people who wrote A Quiet Place. And I don't know if they directed it as well. But they were like, okay, we can do a kind of, like, we can continue in that vein. And we're going to do this, like, kind of sci-fi movie. And then they were like, oh, in A Quiet Place, you never see the monster until the end. And then this one, it was like...
the first 5 minutes.
Well, you don't see it much. I'll say that much.
You see a
like,
blur.
You see a blur. You don't see it clearly until the end. And they're like, we need to do more effects work and effects shots than we're used to. And we have underestimated the budget for being able to effectively do this. And so now we need to limit the amount of dinosaurs that are in our dinosaur movie. Right. And we can get away with that.
They did not direct A Quiet Place. So they might have also been maybe motivated by their success with creature features of like, we could write a bigger one that we would also direct. That's not in opposition to your point. That's kind of to build on it.
I thought The Quiet Place was kind of mid.
I don't love it.
Quiet Place.
I liked it better when my misinterpretation of it was true.
Wait,
what was the misinterpretation?
So we may have had the same misinterpretation. I thought because the big conflict and the big scary thing in A Quiet Place is that she's gonna have a baby, and in this world where like the monsters hunt by sound, and I'm like, okay, either they're like very religiously fundamental or it's too late for them to have an abortion, but they realize like they can't feasibly have a baby in this world because it will kill the whole family because babies make noise nonstop. And so I'm like, she's gonna have to give childbirth silently, and then they've built this little box. And I thought that was a humane baby killing box. And I was
thought
like,
so too.
This is the bleakest, saddest movie because they have to like have this woman have a baby without making a sound, and then they have to euthanize the baby. And I'm like, this is horrible. And it really affected me emotionally. And then I realized, oh no, that was just the box where they were going to keep the baby so that when it made noise, the monsters wouldn't hear it. And somehow they're going to raise this child without making any sound. And this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I didn't like the movie as much.
So my misapprehension, my misunderstanding of it when I watched it the first time was I hadn't seen it in theaters. I watched it on Netflix by myself, or I don't know, some streaming service, and I was watching it, and I'm like, this is such a daring choice because I hadn't turned on at first I thought I hadn't turned on the subtitles, but they're supposed to be on by default for the sign language. But for whatever reason, whatever version I was watching didn't have it. So I'm like, oh wow! So they're really they're asking the audience like you need to like read the actors' body language and their faces if you don't read sign language. But I'm like, wow, I'm still getting, I have the idea of what the conversation is. This is really impressive. And I expressed this to a friend of mine. He's like, I saw this in the theater like twice, and both times it had the subtitles. I'm like,
the same. The same thing happened with me with one of the new Planet of the Apes trilogy movies. I think it was either the second or the third one, where it was just none of the baked in subtitles were in there at all, and it was just a bunch of apes just
ape together strong.
Ape together strong. I love those movies, but like, wow, they are a whole different experience without subtitles.
Those movies kick ass.
Oh yeah.
So I think that the interesting thing with A Quiet Place is like, A Quiet Place was not directed by this pair. It was directed by John Krasinski. And I always felt...
Oh.
Yes. It was directed by him to be kind of, a little bit of a vanity project because it was also his wife. And, like A Quiet Place, I didn't think the script was particularly strong, but I did think that it was a well-made movie for what it was.
No, yeah, I mean, despite my criticisms, I think it's solid. The second one sucks, but...
Well, yeah, but I mean, good cinematography, good production design, like a very kind of tenderly done movie. Like, I mean, I don't think it's the best of all time or anything, but it was like it was a very solid movie.
And it's a good kind of like Primal Fear premise. Like, you have to be quiet. Like, the good horror movies are always like, it's dark or like you can't fall asleep. Stuff like simple, straightforward.
Right. I think that this movie, being directed by the same people who wrote it, I think what we're learning is they're not extremely talented film writers, and but their direction was also not terrible. Like, I thought the movie was weird pacing wise, but I think a lot of that comes down to editing and everything. Like, in terms of how it was directed, there were a lot of times I actually wish the movie was a little bit more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know, I don't think they're bad directors. I don't think they're incredibly good writers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the pace at which we learned the information about Adam Driver's daughter was weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
like,
well, you mentioned, was it shown before the suicide attempt that his daughter had died? Because I didn't pick up on, because I didn't realize that is what was happened until it was like, there's 30 minutes left. And I was like, oh.
Right.
This was
well,
not
that's when
handled.
they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that works. And I think here's why. That worked for me, because I was like, oh man, like, there's the possibility that his daughter is already dead, and so that could be driving him to commit suicide. But there's also the possibility, because at that point you're also unaware that the escape pods can like return, like exit the atmosphere. So I'm like, he may just be marooned here, and he's like, there's no chance of getting back to my daughter, and so I'm going to kill myself because of that. So I think the ambiguity works, but it doesn't. Yeah, then it's not clear that she's dead before that.
I think it would have worked better, because I think it would have worked better if there were fewer loose threads everywhere else, because that was the one thing the whole time where that was hard. If that was the only thing for me that was kind of like vague and I wasn't following it, and then at the end it was like, oh, I see. But like, that was my problem. Like you guys already said, like, there were moments where I was watching and I was like, oh man, this really did have potential, and I see that this is another dead end road that's not going anywhere. Like, I don't know where that bug came from in the cave. I was like, okay. God,
that was...
Well, right. At first I was like, oh, she ate the berries and is sick. But then there's a bug, and I'm like, oh, there's a bug.
God, I forgot about that. I thought she ate the berries too.
Yeah, no, but it's like, no, apparently there's a bug now. I was like, okay.
There's a bug now.
Cool.
There's bugs now.
There are a few, like, what I think are ultimately pretty effective, like, world establishing shots. Like, not establishing shots, just kind of like tiny little, like, quick scenes that go a long way to kind of establish like what the vibe is, that I think are effective. There's the establishing shot in the swamp, which is something I kind of want to talk about because it was something one of my issues with it. There's the bug he squishes that's really gross and sticky. I'm like, that's cool.
I thought that was going somewhere.
I thought he was gonna have to like glue something later in the movie.
He's gonna have to like predator fight a dinosaur or something like that.
Never comes back.
No. It's just there.
There's like I think the beach scene with the pterosaurs and like the what might be Sphinxukians. Cool.
Okay, sure. There's Sphinxukians.
We'll let him have this one.
Or Notosukians. They're some kind of croc. They're not. They're crocs.
Sukians.
like all these nice little like okay, cool, great establishing shots that were kind of almost Walking with Dinosaur-esque in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all falls off. But like, no one dies.
No.
Well, a lot of people die right at the beginning.
Well, it's the Revenant. If it's the Revenant, if there's not that awesome scene in the Revenant, where like one guy gets an arrow through his throat, and he's like, oh, and you're like, get and then Leonardo DiCaprio has to run and all that stuff. But like, I thought. Sorry, Amelia.
No, go ahead. I was interrupting. Finish your thought.
I just thought I thought there was going to be like a few human survivors. Maybe he wouldn't find them at first, but within like the first 10 minutes, he's going to be like, oh, there's some other people. Maybe her parents. Maybe we'd cut to like they're somewhere else, or just someone to get eaten or disemboweled or something.
Yeah, and so I guess what I was going to say is another, like, again, like there were all these roads to nowhere. Like one of them was when he was making one of the distress calls, he said there were 2 missing pods and he found her in one. So I'm like, okay, there's another person. So also I'd have a thought with the bug scene where I was like, is she going to die? Is there another person? Like where is this going? Like, I
totally missed that there was another missing pod. What?
I think... Oh, go on, Amelia.
No, I was just like, so I figured like my assumption of what was going to happen. At first, I didn't realize that the girl in his hut and the girl he ran into in the woods were the same person at first. So I was like, oh, one of these will be got and the other one will be there because there's 2 that are unaccounted for. we found once. Now there's one that's unaccounted for. And I'm assuming at some other point in the plot when it was being put together that maybe this one was found and it was broken or they were dead or whatever. I don't know. But like that was never really explained. Unless like that's for me the recurring theme of these things happen that seem to suggest that it's going to go somewhere and develop, and then it doesn't. Like the berries, like don't eat the berries. I'm like, okay. And it kept coming back to the berries and nothing ever happens.
Yeah, it does.
With the berries. When?
Yeah.
She uses it to poison the what
she didn't
looked
need
like
to. She stabbed it through the eye. This is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. Like that was so irrelevant.
It was like it was. What I was gonna say is it comes back, but in a way that's stupid. It's like if you're just like, oh man, you don't eat that expired sour cream in the fridge. That's gonna give you a tummy ache. Oh, I dipped my bullets in that, so when I shot the burglar, it killed him harder.
It killed him with a stomachache. This is a movie full of unused Chekhov's guns. It's the Chekhov's gun rack. And to the point of the pods, I don't know, and the way I interpreted it is differently, and I don't know who's correct in this case. I thought when he was talking about there are 2 pods, I didn't think he was talking about the cryo chambers. I thought he was talking about escape pods. And so when they got to the first escape pod, I thought, okay, they're in that one, and then it gets wrecked. And I had 2 thoughts, and I whispered this to Alex. I was like, okay, either there's the second escape pod is on the other side of the geyser field, and they're going to have to run there, and they're going to get interrupted by the quadruped, and then they're going to make it to the second escape pod and go. Or because the escape pod's upside down, the T-Rex is going to accidentally knock it over right side up. And one of those did happen. It just wasn't the one that they would have set up earlier in the movie.
It was the stupider choice.
Ooh, Dalton, that reminds me of something else you said. Just in that scene sequence. But when they're like introducing the quadruped, there's like an establishing shot where it zooms in on its eye.
Oh yeah, its eyes all f***ed up.
Yeah.
And Dalton was like, I think there was an earlier scene with this thing that like they had Adam Driver in it, had a fight.
See, I was actually curious when we saw that. My brain was occupied the entire time they were going through that fight of, wait a minute, am I misremembering? Was this the thing that attacked them in the cave? And I just didn't get a good look at it?
I think it was, yeah. I think the quadruped was that thing, but it's not like they really did anything with it.
No.
I liked when the little girl used an entire bag of grenades to blow up a log that already had a raptor trapped in it.
An animal that we should remind our viewers could be killed with a baseball bat.
Right, or like a sturdy kick.
Which takes Adam Driver. I was thinking about our quote in the Velociraptor video when Adam Driver's taking like 7 or 8 good hits with an assault rifle to beat a raptor to death right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like if you breathe on it wrong, it's going to impale all of its internal organs on its own ribs. It's tiny.
Pretty cool scene, and it's like only a second, but when he's fighting like the pair of Rexes, I thought this was just cool. He like shoots it in the face with his gun, and it like rips the front of its head off.
Oh,
it just dies.
Like it's like, oh, that's all. It's all sinuses. It's probably rip off real good.
See,
right.
I think this is one of the first times I've seen in media, period, where a couple well-placed shots just brings a T-Rex down. That like. With that first one, when it just like looks down in the thing, and he was just like, "Oh, cool, there's the brain," and it just goes like, and it's like, "All right, bye."
Yeah. Well, I also really appreciated I'm sorry, Amelia, you can go ahead first.
No, I was just gonna say that it's funny that a T-Rex was shot strategically and killed, because last night on the Squad Up with the Carthage kids, we were talking about, and Car, that includes Car when I say kids, we were talking about guns and what kind of gun you would need to kill a T-Rex. Because I had mentioned how at the range by my house, one time I was there was a group of kids. I mean, they're like high school kids and their dad, and you can rent guns at this range. And one of the guns that you can rent at this range is a Desert Eagle, which they did. And it was a good time to be in that room when it went off. So the question was, could you kill a T-Rex with a Desert Eagle? And we decided, well, if you got it in the eyeball or like another soft spot, probably.
Between the ribs,
Are you using hollow?
I don't know, and this is irrelevant. But anyway, I think it's funny because, like you said, like yeah, with a well-placed shot, you could kill a T-Rex with a gun.
Right. I can. Has anyone else here fired a Desert Eagle? I've fired a Desert Eagle.
No,
I have not.
No. There's Scott.
So a Desert Eagle, will kill everything if you hit it.
A Desert Eagle is made to shoot through car engines.
Yes.
This is like, it's an anti-materiel rifle. If you shoot any living thing with that, it's going to have a bad time.
So, on the fun fact of hunting dinosaurs with small arms, this one actually is a fun fact. The Marlin Model 1895 that Chris Pratt's character uses in the Jurassic World movies, for some reason, on the Marlin website, it actually says on that firearm, it has like different classes of game you can hunt with it, and it actually does say it's rated for T-Rex on there.
It does.
That's fun.
What I mean, just echoing your sentiments, what I really liked about the movie, and what I actually thought was going to be stupid beforehand, and it wasn't, was that the dinosaurs are difficult targets because there's either a lot of them or they're moving quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you are able to line up a shot, it is actually not difficult to deal with them. So I thought it was going to be Adam Driver basically mag dumping at dinosaurs for the entire movie, where it was going to be like Doom or something, and they were just going to be eating bullets. Like, even the second T-Rex was a little bit
you
more...
You obviously haven't played Doom.
Well, okay, whatever, sorry. I have not. But even the second T-Rex, he had to shoot a couple more times. And, like, he hit it in the ankle, which I thought was a great thing, because I've always said, if you need to immobilize a large theropod dinosaur, you shoot it in the ankles, because they're low to the ground and easy to hit, and it's not going to be able to stand up, even if you break one of the 3 metatarsal bones, because it's got to bear all of its weight through there. And seeing him shoot it and then have it immediately just topple over like a sack of potatoes, I felt very vindicated. But yeah, like the fight with the Oviraptor in the caves, which I guess this is the big media debut of a Cetipodi-like thing, except for Jurassic World Dominion, which got to show its head being ripped off like a chicken.
Only in the
it's fun to
cut.
see an animal you study. I'm sorry?
Only in the extended cut.
Right, that's true. It's barely in the movie otherwise. It's nice to see an animal you study introduced as the antagonist of a movie. I did like that was at least a more creative kind of setting, right? Where it's dark, he can't really see, it's finding it is the problem. But again, as soon as he's able to actually get a beat on it, he just shoots it.
It was weird that it was set up as almost like a camouflage ambush hunter thing, like blending in with the rocks and stuff.
Fine. It's fine. They can do whatever they want.
For a second, I thought it was like very pale, right? Like, I'm like, maybe it's really pale. And for a second, when he's like calling out for girl, I thought it might, like, I'm like, oh god, what if it like mimics?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Her voice.
That would have been neat.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts like that. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I mean,
like with the whistling that they were doing, like that's a pretty animal sound. I thought that was going to come in some way where they were going to attract an animal, or that was an easy thing for them to mimic, and then they were going to get into trouble. And they didn't.
You thought wrong.
Kalani is off camera, nodding very vigorously.
I did want to say on the Cetipodi thing, is this the first time? It's at least the first time I can think of any piece of media, well, any movie showing oviraptors actually attacking people.
I mean, it's possible it's happened in some sci-fi channel movie or something, but
because
as far as I know, yeah.
Because this is correct. Because they absolutely would have done that because they're awful animals. And the movie almost jumped an entire letter grade up for me because he killed one.
Yeah, oh yeah. The more you kill, the better. The best thing about the KPG mass extinction event is that every oviraptor was killed.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dalton. Sorry. No. I was going to trail off. No, go ahead.
While we're on the Cetipodi in the cave, I did just want to make the point, and I wanted to see if everyone agreed, that I think maybe the most effective sequence in the movie in terms of generating suspense had nothing to do with any of the dinosaurs, but it was them going through that little opening in the cave.
I was squirming. And
then the people next to me absolutely ruined it, because it's a very simple setup for those who haven't seen the movie. They're trapped in the cave.
Don't. Because
on one end of the cave is a big angry, probably the quadruped thing. And so they go further into the cave, and the computer's like, oh, there's an air current. Go this way. So they go that way, but the air current's leading to a very small opening that you have to shimmy through. It's like that big, so you can just barely squeeze through. And Adam Driver clears a bunch of rocks. The girl goes through the tunnel, and it's very clear that she's standing up in a chamber on the other side. She's either outside entirely or in a different part of the cave system. And then there's an earthquake, and Adam Driver gets stuck on the other side. It's very harrowing because they're going through tight spaces and there's an earthquake and rocks are coming down. It's scary. And then there is a fairly effective beat where Adam Driver realizes he's totally alone in the cave, that this girl who he's like trying to get safe and is surrogate parenting to cope with his daughter's death, they're separated, and he just yells, and it's like, oh, like a human doing a human thing. Very nice.
Good scene.
The people next to me were then like, wait, why is she alive? Like, how did she survive? Like, she should have been collapsed in. Like, she was so very clearly not in the part that collapsed. You stupid.
Yes, the answer to that is yes.
In any case, the cave sequence was good.
Yeah, I mean, like, the cave sequence, good. I like the little raptor log chase, was fun. I like the big T-Rex fight. I like really every part there's a time there are dinosaurs on screen, I'm like, I'm having a good time. It's dumb, but like, and the it's like a second, but I think probably my favorite part of the movie is when that horrible little thing that was probably supposed to be an ankylosaur early in development.
Oh yeah, the tar
like they
thing.
free it, and then it just gets just jumped by a pack of decent looking like old school troodons.
Right.
And they just rip it apart. That got like there was a
like
laugh in the theater. Like it got the response it was supposed to.
Well, if it was supposed to be comedic good, we talked about this on the ride back to the movie. I found it like overly cruel for what it was supposed to be at that moment.
Yeah.
Like if it was supposed to be so cruel that it was funny, then they did a great job. I thought it was supposed to be the first bonding thing between Adam Driver and Koa, and that it was like they help a thing and realize that they can work with each other and that they're going to like they understand each other better. And so I was like, oh, they worked together, figured out a way to communicate, got this thing out of the tar pit, and then like the exact right number of seconds for a comedic beat later, it's eviscerated by troodons.
Well, it's got the timing of like those videos of like families releasing little rabbits out into the yard. Rescued, right. And then the hawk. Like that's when I'm like, oh, cool, they did the rabbit hawk scene. That was funny.
I wanted to say that on the topic of scenes that probably didn't get the emotional reaction that they were intended.
You mean all of them?
Well, was anybody else in actual literal stitches when Adam Driver fell out of the tree and was trying to relocate his shoulder?
Yeah, that was great.
I think did I audibly say the phrase, oh, okay, when he relocated it and started shooting immediately? Because that was certainly in my head.
For me, it wasn't even that. It was also that, like, watching him climb up, I'm pretty sure, like, the second beforehand, I like, had a bite of popcorn, I was just like, that's an incredibly dead branch to be putting all your weight on. And then he falls, like, 50 feet in the hardest impact I've seen outside a jackass. And then he's just, like, standing there with his hair down over his face, looking like a fucking cryptid. And he's just really slamming his shoulder against a tree, and I could barely see. I was laughing so hard.
Well, this kind of gets to what I thought about, like, why I think the movie was originally very different. And, like, it should be noted, there were a lot of reshoots for this movie, apparently. So at some point after it was initially filmed, the vision really did change. I don't know what was reshot. Adam Driver is kind of a badass in this movie. But it seems to me from his job description that they're talking about, like, he's kind of a trucker.
He's a space trucker, yeah.
Right, he's a trucker. And, like, I wanted this movie to have some guy with a huge beer belly and a baseball cap with, like, just stains all over his clothes, just, like, doing his best. And not somebody who is apparently the most highly trained killer in existence who, like, knows all of, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if at some point if he was supposed to be like a military person and this was a colonization mission, which is what it would seem to be based on the fact that there were cryopods full of just people. That was the only thing that was moving.
And assault rifles and grenades in ready access on this space truck.
Right, exactly. But he's like talking about it as it's just some sort of long-range reconnaissance mission.
That's what he says it was. Americans.
But you don't do reconnaissance with a bunch of civilians on the reconnaissance vehicle.
Yeah, it feels like there was backstory there of like it occasionally happens to the space truckers that they get stuck on a planet and need help, and sometimes there's life there. Like,
right.
It feels like even just a simple offhand, like at the beginning with his wife, who doesn't have a name, by the way. When the credits rolled by, it just said her mom.
It was so funny. I laughed so hard.
Her story.
I like that because it also kind of implies that Adam Driver's not her dad. Like it's the infidelity backstory.
But anyway, if she had just had like even a throwaway line of like, what if you have to deal with aliens or pirates or whatever, like it would be fine, but it would at least explain why there was a gun and grenades and like the circle of death that told you when the Oviraptor was coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And when the bomb happened.
I kind of think that the movie makes more sense if he's supposed to be some sort of like high-ranking military exploratory officer. But I don't know.
You know what makes the movie make even more sense? And I'm gonna pitch my recontextualizing the movie to actually make it be worthwhile to have dinosaurs in it, because the only reason it works to have dinosaurs in it is because we as an audience know what dinosaurs are.
Yeah.
But to the characters, they're effectively just any other alien.
Yeah.
This movie would have been so much better if these were people from the future who were on some kind of a space mission, and they wound up accidentally getting sucked into the past through some kind of black hole or something. And then they land and they realize they don't know, they're on some alien world, they don't know what's happened, and a Planet of the Apes reveal happens where they realize, oh, these aren't aliens, they're dinosaurs. We actually know about these because we're from this planet.
Which they kind of do with the footprint reveal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then the incredibly heavy-handed text wall of 65, the title of the movie, 65 million years ago, humans or like
prehistoric Earth had a visitor. It's on the poster.
Right, yes, there was a visitor to Earth, and it's just the stupidest thing. It's like, in case the audience doesn't get that they're on Earth fighting dinosaurs, because they're not reminiscent of, right.
I appreciate at least
that point
that it had the restraint to be like
talking.
Sorry, James.
No, it's like, just why not make them aliens?
I appreciate that at least had the restraint to be like, it wasn't like an Adam and Eve situation, not to be creepy about it, but like that it wasn't like, oh, humans came to Earth as aliens.
I was so worried about that. I'm so worried about that.
Because that plot's been done before in media, and it's one of the stupidest things, because like you just cannot extricate humans from the evolutionary history of Earth and like apes. It's like, if humans came to Earth as aliens, why the are there fossil humans and apes?
Right.
It's
just, it's one of the, it was a very, the thing that really bothered me about the movie, and this is kind of pursuant to Dalton's point, it never matters that they're on Earth and that they're dinosaurs, right? Like, I was expecting some sort of payoff. I think Dalton's idea would be a good one if, like, they were able to access old data files about dinosaurs to have some base idea of what to expect or what to do.
It would even actually be, like, it would satisfy some kind of pedantry comments as well if they were just like, oh my god, we're on Earth, these are dinosaurs. If someone's just like, okay, I know some of these but not all of them, if someone was just like, what, you think we found all of them or something like that?
Yeah,
like,
right, you mean if there were characters who could speak to each other and they could
there were dialogue.
I just thought of
it just, the movie would not be different if this were a generic alien thriller that would be on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
The movie would not be different if there was a third disgruntled crewmate or something who just wanted to kill Adam Driver and the kid and was chasing them. Except that he wouldn't grab the escape pod in his jaws and right it 180 degrees. In the most contrived coincidence of film history.
All right. Here's 65. Get ready. I got to pick. I formed this in my brain. My big brain. All right, so you kind of take the idea Dalton has. Deep space people. Whatever.
Which I want to emphasize is I think what all of us thought the movie was going to be about, because we had a better idea.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be some Star Trek shenanigans. They get sucked into a wormhole. Anyway, they go, it's like, oh no, we've crashed on Earth. And they crash in the Yucatan. And they're in like this big jungle, this big steamy jungle. And they're making their way through. And you can't really see any life, and then you come to just this huge crater that's only slightly overgrown with vegetation in the just like a blasted landscape that's just beginning like the ferns on it, but it's like, oh wow, where have we landed? And they look at the stars, and like then they see like don't know, some bird or something, or some weird mammal, and they're like, we've landed on Earth, and it's right after the asteroid impact. So they're like, oh, okay, it could be worse. Then the other shoe drops when one of them gets like lifted 14 feet in the air and just like bitten in half by like the last surviving Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So like you start the movie where it's like, oh, thank God the dinosaurs have all gone extinct. It's like, oh, not quite. And then the twist is they killed the last dinosaurs. Like they find a nest, and like the last guy or the last woman who's survived is like, everyone else is dead, and they're like, you're not going into the future.
This is funny because this is not totally unlike a plot of a book I read as a kid, which is about like it's part of a series about bats, and this is like a prequel, and it's about these early bats that are still gliders, and it is literally this situation where it's like maybe 100 years after the asteroid impact, so there are still dinosaurs around, and mammals are starting to kind of take over and do that kind of thing, and all the mammal characters are like low-key worried about the dinosaurs because like we've heard these stories, we don't see them very often, and that's like towards the end of the book. It's the same kind of thing where there's a nest, and some of them, oh that's right, they've come up with like some animals have decided that they will seek out and kill any nests that they find, and they're faced with this problem of a nest towards the end that, you know, leads to
cool
shenanigans and stuff. But it is I think like 100 years or even 10 years or whatever after the impact would be a very, very fun place to set a story, because as having read a book where that is the case, it is very, very fun concept.
There's another there's a graphic novel series called Paleocene that does that as well, which actually I think has a really fun little moment in there where it's like it's been a couple generations afterwards, and the story follows these little like early primate-y sort of squirrel things, and there's a bit when like the kids are like restless and not wanting to go to bed, and the parent does shadow puppets to tell them bedtime stories, and they're monster stories about dinosaurs and stuff, and like doing little shadow puppets on the wall and stuff of these are the things that used to hunt us sort of thing. It's really cute and fun. But yeah,
God, there are so many better things they could have done with this film.
I was gonna say, and I don't know where else to fit this in because it seems like we're on a different topic. But I had a brain blast a minute ago of I think I also just now in talking about this stumbled upon another disparate thread of a story beat that could have at one point been involved in this. Like we were talking about, there was just like, it's weird that some of these things seem to be setting up without payoff, and that he's so militarily trained and he has all these weird gadgets and stuff. And there's the bug that's the glue that sticks his hand to the log and stuff. I always thought it was like I've seen this movie like years ago. I thought it was really weird when he has the one comment after when he's trying to break through the rocks and isn't able to succeed, the way that he specifically says, no, I don't have any tools left. Like that was a defining characteristic of how he was doing things. And it almost seemed like it was like he was a like military person or a space colonist, and like it was like you were well equipped with the best things, and then eventually he would have to lean back on creating primitive technology to survive in this primitive world, and that's how we get by, and that's human ingenuity and stuff like that. It would give it a theme.
You know what this movie needs to that end?
What?
It needs an extra week of time before the asteroid hits. And there needs to be a montage. This movie needs a montage.
It does. It's funny that...
Yes, Amelia.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I didn't think it needed the asteroid at all. Because, like, no matter what, they need to get out. And I told you all this earlier. I went with a couple friends, a couple other students here at the AMNH. And one of them, once he worked out that it was the asteroid, was laughing progressively louder each time it was shown on screen, which was fun because it was kind of funny because it's like, yes, that is an asteroid and it's coming. And also I guess I don't know the current thinking on this. I don't know what the asteroid looked like on Earth and how. I don't think it was seen. No, it's like I think there was a bright star and the next day everything was gone.
I don't think you would see it at all. I don't think they're that reflective. Like, it's so small, there was probably no visual signature.
I've heard some estimates that basically said that, like, it would have appeared as like just about as bright as another star in the sky like a week before or something like that, and then would have been like a little bit brighter than it would have been like slightly brighter than some of the more notable stars a couple days before, and then like by the time it was about as bright as a planet, it's like it's an hour and a half before impact or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Here's a question I have about it that maybe I just am dumb, but almost every instance in depiction of the KPG impact, it's always preceded by a bunch of smaller like meteorites and stuff. Why?
Drama.
Would it be in real life?
Cool.
It is cool, but like I feel like in real life it probably just was one big thing that hit, and if there were any subsidiary pieces, they would have hit after because they would have broken off. And that's how momentum functions. Like things don't break off and then go in front of you.
If they were also subsidiary pieces, they would presumably be orbiting the KPG asteroid and like would have hit around the same time. I think it depends on I think there are probably, speaking as somebody who's played a lot of Kerbal Space Program in his life and therefore has a PhD level understanding of orbital mechanics and astrophysics, I think there are cases in which you could have something like that. Like if you are moving through a debris field and the collision is not the asteroid orbit intersecting with yours necessarily, although from some frame of reference it's always that, but that you've like essentially the planet moves through an asteroid field and hits a major asteroid, which is kinetically the same question.
Yeah,
I think that could happen, but that's not what the KPG impactor did. So you're right. So I started laughing a lot also whenever I saw the asteroid, because it reminded me of a video I made with my friends when I was 17 years old that is still accessible in the depths of YouTube. And our 5,000th subscriber, I guess, will get a link to it. But I'm going to tell Scott where you can find it so that we can put a little clip in here. Because it was the exact same gag that I did. And I actually thought at some point they were going to use the stock horror movie music every time he looked up at the asteroid. Like, there's a couple chords that are like the couple of really high pitched string chords that you use whenever the bad guy's shown. Because we were making like our rendition of a joke slasher movie. It was like a 5-6 minute long short movie or something. And it was something that I was actually fairly proud of when I edited it because I thought it was funny. Is that the character had to go get something out of his refrigerator in like the basement. And he opened the refrigerator door and he closed it. And then, of course, in the background, after he closed the door, you could see the bad guy in the backdrop. And I had the slasher music thing play. They walked away. And then later in the same movie, he had to go back there and get it again. And so he opened the refrigerator door and then closed it. And that time the slasher was just like really close.
Okay, all out of Windex.
Like just standing right behind the door. And with the slasher tone again. And it reminded me so strongly of this gag to just keep looking and see it getting closer and closer each time with no travel time between it. I thought it was very silly.
It's like the Monty Python dude running up.
Right.
It's like when there's a cat staring at you down the hallway and you turn around and you turn back and it's a little bit closer.
Exactly. If you stop looking at the asteroid, it will actually, like, it can only, if he just looked at it the whole time, it wouldn't have hit the Earth.
Yeah.
Alex, I'm sorry to have interrupted you. You can go ahead.
Just on the asteroid, I was thinking it could have worked if, like, when the ship was coming in, if there was an issue with the ship, like we didn't see, or unrelated to the asteroid, or unrelated to hitting a debris field. If it's like as it's like whipping past Jupiter through Mars, like it's out of control, it like just bumps like a little rock.
Yeah.
And it's not even focused on, it's just like out of the corner of the scene. And then like at the end of the movie, it's like he's like, man, that's a bright point in the night sky that I didn't notice last night. And then and because he's a spaceman, he's like, that's not good.
Right. That would have been a good payoff too, to like make it matter that it was dinosaurs if he caused the extinction.
I'm glad they didn't do that. I thought they were going to do that in like from the trailer. I thought, oh, they're going to like accidentally like zoop into the system and hit a rock and it'll be the asteroid. And I thought that was stupid then, and I think it's stupid now. I'm glad to an extent that it's like, I'm glad that it's the asteroid that caused them to crash and not the other way around, because it makes it feel like, you know, had he not come, like this is still an inevitable outcome. And it's just that even more so that like humans, or in this case aliens, but human surrogate aliens, are at the mercy of nature.
Yes.
I like more. I think it would have been very stupid, but
no, I mean also, that's fair. I don't think I would have liked it, but at least would have made it make sense that they were like working in the gimmick. So I can see your point.
And maybe like maybe it hits like they're getting on the ship, like, and it hits a hemisphere away, and like it would have been more exciting for the finale, because then we might get like they're in the ship and they have to like the shockwave like forces them into like back into like a low flight path, and then you get like chased by the mega tsunami, and then you barely get out. Like you got to do all the cool asteroid impact stuff if you're far enough away. Where in the movie, it drops literally where they were.
Yeah, it's actually looking for Adam Driver.
And
it's just a big fan.
Well,
Adam
so
Driver
see,
seeking
sorry.
missile. Go on.
I made a point. Well, because the other students fought me on this because they're like, well, no, it didn't hit where they were. It was nearby. And I'm like, no, I think it hit where they were. But it doesn't matter. The point is, like, coming back to a couple days ago, whenever the hell that was, that it came out that the reason they included fake dinosaurs is actually a good one, and that is because the fossil record is incomplete, which is true. And I think that was a great way for them to excuse it or explain it, because it's like, yeah, actually, fine. But I said to the other students, I'm like, see, that's why we don't have any fossils from that area, because it was obliterated by the asteroid. So, of course we don't know what the dinosaurs looked like in that area, because they were evaporated.
Right.
Base.
I don't care, and I think maybe at some point when we can actually look at more footage in the movie, we might talk about the inspirations behind the designs for it. If people comment here and tell us they would like us to, if they tell us to forget this movie and forget that it exists like the general public will, we can also do that.
It ain't doing too hot.
Right, it's not doing so good. I think that I personally am actually supportive of their decision, like Amelia is, to include fake dinosaurs. Yes. I think the fossil record is tremendously incomplete. I say that all the time, and I'll be saying that again shortly, so watch your scientific journals. But the fossil record is very incomplete. And it's good to imagine what other things might have existed, especially if you're making a monster movie and want to show cool things. Mm-hmm. I also think the character design was bad.
Yes.
Yeah. Except I want to say that I liked the pterosaurs a lot, and I liked that they were clearly the Sungoraptorus, and I liked that they were digging in the mud for clams with their little pointy feet. I was like, this is great.
They were so good. Like they
were good.
The eyes. Did anyone else notice the eyes, or was I going insane?
On the pterosaur?
Alex may be the only one who saw this.
What are you talking about?
They're in the they're in the antorbital.
Oh, I don't.
No.
Taking Monofenestrata to a new level.
Because I was like, whoa, those are cool pterosaur designs, and I'm like, is that eye in the fucking antorbital?
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that.
I'm going to try and find them in the trailer
closer. But, like, I did genuinely... Yeah, Amelia, you're right. Like, they're genuinely Zungoraptorids, and they're doing Zungoraptorid things.
You don't ever see them close enough to know. Like, I certainly didn't notice.
No.
But it's like... I think this is another point where the movie looks like it was originally something different, and this is where we know inside information. And we have to speak very carefully to not violate any non-disclosure agreements. But we do know that at some point the people making this film did reach out to scientists and were trying to get good information to base the script and the filmmaking on. And from what I understand from the people I've spoken to about this, it seems that at some point either the production company or the filmmakers themselves just decided they didn't care. And so I think there was a point in the making of this movie where they probably did care a lot more about scientific information and really wanted to make this good. And then they decided that they wanted freedom to make a monster movie. And whether that happened on the part of the writer-directors, or if it was a studio interference thing where they said, like, don't work with scientists and try to pay consulting fees and everything to get the dinosaurs to look good, it's not worth it. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. But like the pterosaur design was maybe aside from the eye placement, very good. They seemed to have feathers. They were a good anatomy. They were Sungoraptorids. They were doing what we think Sungoraptorids did ecologically. If you have more questions about that, you can watch our video about Sungoraptorus in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Going to plug our own video. But most of the other dinosaur designs are not really informed by much scientifically, and aren't aesthetically pleasing either, and I don't think they're cool either.
I'll die
I think
on
they
one
kind
hill.
of fail on every level.
I'll
What's
die
that?
on one hill. I really liked the T-Rex, actually. I thought it was not bad.
I like the troodontids.
I was gonna say I like the little troodon raptory things. I thought they were great. Pseudopody was ugly, as it should be. And the Rex was not like horrible to look at. It was like, yeah, it's a monster. Okay.
I
the leggy crocs were cool too.
Yeah,
I think they were built.
Me.
I have my one complaint with every speculative thing, and with the creature design in total, other than I think everything is hideously ugly, and for no good reason. They could have made things look good and not ugly. Is that all of their speculative design and some of their non-speculative design is so very clearly informed by mammal anatomy, and it's like you could have done this and had the same exact creature and just informed it a little bit more on reptilian anatomy, and it would have been a much more convincing fake.
Yeah,
especially
you've got a lot of loose scapulae and pelvis and everything.
Especially the big old quadrupedal theropod thing,
which I can now confirm is the thing from the cave.
Which is weird, again, because that quadrupedal thing from the cave has like an incredibly accurate reptile palate.
I think that probably happened because they were able to find a picture of like an
No. James, don't belittle this. Let him have this. He never gets to talk positively about reptile palates in media. No qualifiers. Let him have this.
It looks good.
It does look good. No,
yes,
I don't disagree that it's accurate. I don't think they were like. I don't think they called you to ask about reptile palate evolution and anatomy.
They should have.
Well, if they did, they signed an NDA.
There's one other thing where things are actually remarkably accurate, although I think it was accidental, which is that the paleo environment they depict for Western North America in the Cretaceous is not far off. It's a swamp. It's warm and humid. I don't know anything about plants, so I'll let Amelia take this one. Plant life, how reasonable is it as a depiction of the Hell Creek?
I thought it was great. Because I had a moment, and I confirmed it later when I came back. Because when I was at, like, obviously, it's something I pay attention to, and like overall, the vibes of the place where it was there was a lot of conifers and a lot of ferns and a lot of cycads or things that looked like cycads in passing. I was like, that's cool. That's dead on. And then there was a moment where they're like hiding behind a log, and there's pitcher plants. And I was like, that's an interesting choice. I wonder if pitcher plants were actually around then. And it turns out they were, which is cool. So pitcher plants have been around since the late Cretaceous.
Wow.
And yeah, no, okay. That's one note I didn't write down, but I think the pitcher plants, specifically is it Sarraceniids? I'm going to look it up so I don't butcher the name. But the specific pitcher plant that they show is the North American pitcher plant. That's right. So I think the North American pitcher plants are a more recent thing. They're like only 25, 30 million years old. But pitcher plants as a group have been around since the late Cretaceous. So that is pretty cool. And the other plant that caught my attention specifically was the flower that she picks, which is clearly a moth orchid, which is the kind of orchid that you will see at your local Trader Joe's, and like everywhere else that sells houseplants has moth orchids. And so that struck me as weird. I'm like, I don't think orchids have been around that long. And I looked it up. And it turns out they've also been around for about 80 million years. The whole group of orchids has been around for 80 million years. But the specific, I think it's the tribe of plants that includes the orchids that look like that the moth orchid belongs to, and others, has only been around for, like the pitcher plants, about 25, 30 million years. And the last cool plant that we noticed was the Spanish moss growing on the trees.
Love that.
So
cool.
It's so cool looking.
Spanish moss is super cool looking. It's also just a cool plant, and in learning about it today, it's even cooler than I thought because it's Tillandsia, the genus Tillandsia. If you're not familiar with Tillandsia, you probably actually are. I have one in my apartment that I'm just now thinking.
If you aren't familiar with this, you're wrong.
You're wrong. Well, no, you might know them. So these are like Tillandsia are air plants. So there are these little plants you can get at garden centers and other things that are just loose because they're epiphytes, and epiphytes are plants that don't grow in the dirt. They don't have like normal roots like that. They just absorb moisture through the air. So they'll often grow on top of other plants. So phyte means plant, epi means like on. So an epiphyte is a plant that grows on another plant, but it's not parasitic. And that's what orchids do. And that's what Spanish moss and other air plants do. And this group of air plants it's the same pattern again, where like Tillandsia has not been around as long. I think the number I found is 15 million years. But they belong to a broader group of tropical plants called bromeliads, which you might know as the ones that some frogs lay their eggs in the tadpole, like they're the cup plants, basically. Bromeliads have been around for a very long time. They've been around since about 100 million years ago. So overall, they're showing a humid environment with appropriate plants. Like, it's a swamp, and there's pitcher plants. Pitcher plants grow in swamps. At least North American ones do. And then there's several different kinds of cool epiphytes that did have relatives that were alive during the end of the Cretaceous, the orchids and Spanish moss and other air plants. So I was having a great time with the plants in this movie because they were appropriate, you know, and whether or not that was intentional, I don't know. I don't care. It made it more enjoyable for me, at least.
Well, so I think it's a case where they accidentally wound up at the correct thing, because the reason that the Hell Creek Formation in Western North America, which is probably the inspiration behind this, even though you only see one real dinosaur that's known from the Hell Creek.
Kind of two, if you really stretch it with the Oviraptorosaur and say that it's a very emaciated and an incredibly undiagnostically weird looking Anzu.
Sure, maybe two, 1.5. Is commonly likened to the environment of like the Everglades or the Louisiana Bayou. And due to filming incentives favoring production in the state of Louisiana, they filmed this in the Louisiana Bayou. And I don't think that was an intentional decision at all. I think they wanted it to be a swamp, and they got a swamp for cheap. And it happened to be one that winds up actually being a pretty accurate rendition of the ecosystem.
So thank the IRS for this.
Yes, we thank the IRS and whatever Bureau of Cultural Affairs or whatever it is in Louisiana for presenting a weirdly accurate Hell Creek ecosystem populated by the weirdest and most uncreative and bland, unfun dinosaur designs I've ever seen.
I want to make another point about something that they accidentally got right, which is the scene. So the scene where he falls from the tree, which I didn't like see it as like funny or anything at all, other than just like, I was just impressed by like, it wasn't dramatic. He just fell out of the tree because he had a bug on his hand. And I think that's like a really realistic, dumb thing to happen. Like, accidents happen. But the bugs that are on his hands, they were real bugs. And there were 2 of them. And they were whip scorpions. And I'm realizing the reason that they were whip scorpions is because they're harmless. You can get them as pets. They're not expensive. And so I'm like, they're just, because like, it's not uncommon for movies like this to just stick modern animals into a prehistoric ecosystem. But invertebrates are one of those things, they don't change very quickly. And so also in my Googling about the plants, I remembered the whip scorpions. I was like, I wonder how long those have been around. And the answer was the Carboniferous. So that was not a bad call at all, because not only will Adam Driver not get stung because they're harmless, but they were actually around during this time.
I was going to look that up too. Oh, good job.
I mean, I think Kalani wants to say something about the mouth bug.
It's not a bug.
Let's talk about the mouth bug. Get over here. She's literally writhing.
Okay, then it's not a bug. It's an insect in general.
It's a marine polychaete, free living. It's not parasitic. It doesn't live terrestrially. It's marine. It was a marine polychaete in her mouth.
Cool. It looked like a bobbit worm. Is that what they're called too? Another word for them?
Yeah, that's a similar
type of
thing.
Bobbit worms are polychaetes, right?
Yeah, those are polychaete marine worms. Yeah, the jaws were very bobbit worm like. This had more like hairs than a bobbit worm would, but it was very bobbit worm like, and I had a lot of questions about that.
I remember.
Sorry. My invertebrate ass.
I just saw her writhing and like whipping around trying to get my attention because she needed to speak. So I'm sorry. I had to.
No.
Talking is the hardest thing I've ever done.
I know.
I was so grossed out, I didn't notice. I did not like the bug scene.
I saw it. I thought it was going to be an isopod, like a tongue isopod.
Yeah.
And so, but then I saw, I'm like, oh, that looks like a bobbit worm, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about the berries again. I'm like, where did this bug come from? Did she eat a berry and it's actually bug eggs? Like,
I kind of like that the sensor was sensitive enough that it knew that a bug had come in. It was like, I think that's what they were implying.
Oh, that makes sense.
No, not that it came in or that she was in pain or something. Like,
I thought it was that it had violated the boundary and then like worked into her mouth because she was sleeping right at the edge of the thing.
Oh.
That was how I read it.
So, the one thing I was not super clear on if this is a shockingly accurate thing of the Western North American ecosystem that it was portrayed, is that how all the geysers and everything. Do we have evidence for that in the Hell Creek?
No. But
are we in the Hell Creek? Because if the asteroid hit there, they're not in the Hell Creek.
we may be in Mexico.
I don't think they know about that. I don't think it's that intentional. I think they made the asteroid hit there. The landscape they showed afterward looked like it was supposed to be like Denver or something, like a city on the plains near the Rockies.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any evidence of geyser-like systems or anything, but like it would have been a fairly tectonically active area, right? Like there's active mountain building at the time. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was enough geothermal heat for geysers to exist, but I don't know for sure.
That is also reminding me that something we shockingly did not mention so far while we were recording this is how absolutely horrifically brutal that death scene was of the quadruped when it got boiled alive. And
that was rad.
Dripping
that was fun.
Liquid flesh onto the ground. I'm like, PG-13.
No, this is good.
We love PG-13.
It's a good PSA for people about to go to Yellowstone. Like, actually, don't get close to the fucking hydrothermal features because they will kill you in a horrible way.
I remember reading a news article about the guy who like told his girlfriend he was going to jump in just as a bit, and he dissolved in front of her.
Yep.
And
based cool.
It was very aptly named 65 because I give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's a mid movie.
It's extremely mid. We'll talk more about it at some point if the viewers of the channel want us to.
Or other paleo movies and
Tammy and the T-Rex, awesome movie.
We'll do Tammy and the T-Rex.
Movie.
It is mid. It is sufficient, and it's a movie.
It
has
was
a great structure.
Good job, everybody. We're proud of you. Go support this movie, maybe. Maybe don't. I don't care.
Maybe support the Skeleton Crew.
Yes, you have to support the Skeleton Crew. Now, because Amelia puts skulls of everything we talk about on the channel on our Redbubble page, I presume we're going to have a rendition of Adam Driver's skull that can be purchased.
All right, I'm leaving. This is unproductive.
Goodbye, Alex.
Fire merch.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Remember to, if you like this video and you want to see us review more dinosaur movies and talk about accuracy of dinosaurs in movies as well as video games, remember to comment on this video telling us what you liked about it. Remember to subscribe to the Skeleton Crew channel, and remember to hit that bell so that you get notified every time we put up a new video. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
So long, cinema sailors.
In the Discord server we inhabit asked if Scott would win in a fight with an American black bear.
I love the mythology that is being created.
It's very odd how parasocial things are getting this quickly.
Yes.
It's so
it's
fast.
very cool.
I'm Dr. James Napoli. Alex, what? I was ready.
I just didn't believe her delivery.
Sell it this time.
Again.
It's the movie episode. You gotta act.
Do you want to introduce what we're doing here?
But I mean, there's gonna be big letters underneath the video that say what we're doing. But I'll help you out. I know things are slow for the non-scientists in the group. So we all separately.
Should we all try to make the sound?
I can do it.
I can't do it. No,
because I certainly can't.
I can't do it.
Oh, it's been a while, but
I guess.
Are we all gonna? Is this gonna be watch the Skeleton Crew fail to whistle on camera?
No, I'm not doing it. I know I can't.
I know I can't either. Because it's not too far off from like a loon call, which a lot of people.
I love
from
the complete silence on Dalton and Scott's mics.
We're really good at it. I just need Adam Driver to like parent me.
Right. Don't we all?
Been a hot minute.
Sorry about the live music playing on my end, but apparently we've reached jazz. Thank God. We've reached a smooth jazz o'clock in San Diego, and it's vibrating the floor under my feet.
James,
sorry.
Somehow your video quality got so much better when Alex left. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know what.
That's really funny.
That's really funny. That's really funny.
Because he's a Horcrux.